Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Mech Spotlight. Today we're taking a look at yet another of the super heavy mechs. This is the Barrage, and this is the hero variant, the Bloodletter. Really cool little 125 ton super heavy mech. I say little in quotations there, because it is all relative. We'll take a look at the model real quick. Pretty cool model. Obviously it builds off of a king crab. You just have the cockpit sticks out a little further there, it looks like. A little more angled. You do have these arms on here with kind of like shields on the outsides of them, along with two energy hardpoints tucked in there. And then on the shoulders, you have missile hardpoints on the left shoulder and these ballistic hardpoints on the right shoulder. And then lots of armor to top it off. Pretty cool model. I like it. Not much else to say about it there. As far as the paint scheme went, I just went with Buccaneer and then changed the colors to some Fedcom colors or Davian colors, whichever you want to call it. So let's take a look at the quirks, shall we? Direct artillery platform. So I didn't really take advantage of this. I don't really like playing with artillery and the splash damage weapons. Mainly because it doesn't show my damage numbers at the end, and I like to know how much damage I did total. So if you're using these AoE weapons like artillery, it doesn't count the splash damage in your damage numbers, unfortunately. But anyways, I really thought about doing an artillery build here. Artillery is extremely heavy though, and it didn't really leave a lot of room for other stuff. And I wanted to try out these bombast lasers. These are brand new in revamped weapon mod. So I wanted to try them out. Distracting, you get some bonuses to incoming damage to both armor and structure there, or minus 5%. Angled armor, minus 8% to incoming damage to armor on the torso. You do get command mech here. This is sensor range bonuses. Unyielding barrage. So this is an interesting one. Adds even more durability to this mech. The Barrage is a sturdy design that can still fight back even when only 3 components remain. Not really true on this build because of the way I built it, but interesting quirk there. Gives us some more bonuses to durability. Federated Suns. This design originates or is predominantly used by the Federated Suns, who tend to favor autocannons. Mechs from this faction have significant improvements to autocannon cycle times, reliability, and ammo capacity. Light autocannons and rotary autocannons are improved further with better heat gen and velocity. Though this comes at the cost of damage per round, every other weapon system has better ammo capacity and slightly faster cycle times. It says reduced damage, so let's see. The reduced damage is 10%. Everything else though you get bonuses to pretty much, so you get weapon cooldown, weapon heat gen is increased slightly. Weapon ammo is also increased. Autocannon cooldown is, so you get a total of 20% cooldown for autocannons, if you include the weapon cooldown of 5%. Autocannon heat gen is reduced. Autocannon damage is also reduced, like it said, 10%. Autocannon jam chance is reduced by 25%. This is huge. And then autocannon ammo modifier plus 10%, so you get some extra ammo there. Light and rotary ACs, projectile speed and heat generation are both improved as well. Barrage hero armor. This is our hero armor, so we're getting more durability bonuses there to our armor. No structure in there. Bloodletter. This is the Bloodletter quirk for the hero variant. This gives us predictive targeting built in, missile cooldown, heat gen, and projectile speed. Missile cooldown and heat gen, ballistic projectile speed, cooldown, heat generation, and damage, as well as some bonus ammo there. 25% bonus ammo, along with the other ammo bonuses we already had. You should not be running out of ammo on this thing very easily, assuming you put enough ammo on it. Energy heat gen and energy beam duration also improved. The heat gen only slightly. The beam duration, 12.5% improvement, is really nice here. So obviously with these quirks, we decided to go with like an AC energy build. I did throw some Thunderbolt 5s onto the left torso for the missile hardpoint there. Decided to have some missiles on there. Haven't really played with the Thunderbolt missiles much before. So we went with those this time. Really strong missiles, just watch out for AMS. For the ballistic hardpoints on the right torso, I went with 2 Rack 2s. Originally I had 2 Rack 5s, but it was just too heavy, couldn't make it all fit, so I dropped those down to Rack 2s. These are really nice to have for finishing off targets. It's a high DPS weapon. So yeah, use that most of the time. I'm using these though, the Bombast lasers. These are kind of new. Like I said before, they were just added to the revamped weapons mod. Developed in the Lyran Alliance to be the ultimate word in laser weapons. The Bombast laser is a compromise between weight and damage. Full, not fully charged. Okay, anyways, I think it's supposed to say, when not fully charged, the weapon will produce much less heat and fire a shorter duration beam. To take advantage of the maximum damage, however, the capacitor must recharge in addition to the Bombast laser's cooldown. So you're going to have your normal cooldown, and then you'll see another little counter down there by the weapon. It has a C next to it for charge, I believe. That is the one that you want to wait for it to charge in addition to the cooldown to get your full damage out of this weapon. So, interesting weapon type. I went ahead and did 4 of them. Tried to do 6, but when I threw the racks on there, it just didn't quite fit. Also, extremely hot when you're using a lot of these. So, 4 Bombast lasers. These really aren't too bad as far as lasers go. I'm not sure they're really better than other laser options that we would normally use in this situation. Like some pulse lasers or ER large, something like that, right? I don't know that they're necessarily better. I need to do some more testing with them, but they definitely work. They work well, do some good damage. Like I was saying before, use the Bombast lasers as much as you can. That's kind of your primary weapon here. The Thunderbolts as well, obviously. The Rack 2s, you can start hitting enemies from really far away with these things. They do have really long range. So you can soften up targets with the Rack 2s and then finish them off with the Bombast or the Thunderbolts. But I was also finding it useful to open up targets with the Thunderbolts, start doing damage with Thunderbolts, use the Bombast lasers to cut it open in the CT or something like that, and then the Rack 2s are good for finishing off with a few seconds of rapid fire there. I will say these Clan Rack 2s, they do not start off firing at a high rate of fire. You have to let it build up to the higher rate of fire. It takes a couple seconds. You know, when you press fire the first time, it's going to seem like it's firing slowly, but the rate of fire will build up after a few seconds to the maximum rate of fire. So something to keep in mind when you're using those there. The last thing I threw on here was a laser AMS on the CT just for some extra defensive ability. You do have 3 AMS hardpoints here. So if you need more AMS, you got plenty of room for it. Let's take a look at the internals. Okay, starting at the cockpit or the head. We do have an clan active probe in there. Always nice to have when you're using missiles, obviously. It gives you easier lock-ons, no line of sight, that sort of thing. Sniper sensors, improve sensor range. Went with a modular FCS. For the modular FCS, we did a heat battle computer as well as the 3 weapon battle computers, ballistic, energy, and missile. Since we are using all 3 weapon types, I figured that was a good move. Retrofit support, this is heat. Again, it was a very hot build. We fixed that by using prototype heat sinks, but we'll discuss that more in a minute. But I went ahead and kept the heat retrofit on there as well, just to help a little bit more there. You could go with armor. I think the heat was okay on this build where I got it. I didn't really test it in any really hot biomes, but I did test it in some average temperature biomes, and I didn't really have very much for heat issues. So anyways, your choice there. Slick Suite, pretty standard. Evasion pilot skill modifier plus sensor range for the whole lance. In the CT, I did go with the supercharger because the engines on this thing, we just went with a double 200 engine core, which means that we're only moving at just over 50 kph, which for me is pretty slow. I like to be closer to 60 kph minimum. So threw a supercharger on there. This is supercharger Mark 6. This is made for the Superheavy mechs. Only weighs 1 ton, so really economical way to get some more speed there. Just don't forget that you have it. I do that a lot. As far as your internals on the CT, we went with Clan Pharaoh Armor for the weight savings. We went with Clan Endo Structure, again, for weight savings. That's very standard there. We went with Prototype Heatsinks. I mentioned this before. I was using the double heatsinks originally. You just can't fit enough cooling on this thing for 4 bombast lasers plus the other weapons. So, went with the prototype heat sinks in order to reduce our overall cooling. Just watch out when your heat gets too high. You do have the possibility of taking internal damage. So try not to let your heat get too high there. Activates when it's above 90%. So if you can stay below 90% heat, you're golden. With that, obviously, we stacked a whole bunch of prototype heat sinks. This reduces the heat from the build. The more that you have, so really strong way to do that there, as well as increasing capacity. Every single one of these increases capacity, so because they're only a single slot item, essentially a single heatsink, that's just a prototype variant, we do have over 87 heat capacity, so really strong cooling there. I think it is good for this build. I didn't really have any issues with it, like I was saying. As far as our gyro goes, I like to go with the Dreadnought gyro on these super heavies. Kind of makes sense, right? It does give you weight savings as well as weapon spread radius modifier, spread distance modifier, jam chance modifier, which is really what I wanted for this build. I like stacking jam chance modifiers for the rack 2s or any rack weapons to try and keep them running a little bit longer before they jam up. Recoil modifier, that's nice to have with a number of ballistic weapons have quite a high recoil. Not necessarily the rack 2s though, so in this build not a huge deal, but that is really nice to have when you're using ballistic weapons that have high recoil. Weapon damage to armor and structure is also reduced with the gyro, which is really nice. And then finally we went with the Clan XXL engine. Kind of sucks because if you lose one of your side torsos, you're going down, but we needed the weight savings, and this thing's got a ton of armor. This mech is tough to take down. I really didn't take much damage at all playing with it in any of my plays with it, so I'm not too worried about losing a side torso there. I think you're going to be just fine. Alright, so as far as our other internals go, on the arms, we have a cooling jacket on each arm to help with the cooling on the bombast lasers. With those bombast lasers on each arm, I went ahead and did a laser pulse module. This reduces cooldown further, as well as laser damage is increased, optimal range, max range, and beam duration is reduced by a whopping 25%. That's really huge. The only negative here that you're getting is heat generation. You are increasing your heat generation by 10%, but thanks to all of our prototype heat sinks, I think we're going to be just fine with that. At least I didn't notice any downsides to having the laser pulse modules on there. We also went with the Klystron accelerator on each arm. This gives us some further bonuses to our lasers. Energy cooldown modifier minus another 5%. So we got a lot of cooldown modifier on this build. Energy beam duration is also reduced by 7.5%. So those are really good to have as well. So we threw one of those on each arm, like I said. Patchwork tier 3 on each arm to save a little bit more weight there. As far as any other internals that we have an efficient ammo feedway for our rack 2s. This is really nice for helping jam chance as well. So you probably notice we're stacking a lot of bonuses in here for cooldowns and for the jam chance on the ballistics. Those are kind of the main two. I wanted the bombast lasers to have really fast fire time, or a really low cooldown, so that we could fire them quickly and they would recharge quickly. So that was kind of my goal with the build here, hence a lot of the internals that we used. Again, in patchwork tier 2 and a tier 1 on the side torsos, just to save a little bit more weight there. But yeah, basically that's the build. We also did thermal transfer duct on each leg. I think by now you guys are familiar with those. Those are good items to use when you need to get as much cooling out of your heat sinks as possible. You are losing some structure modifier on the legs, but it's not a big deal. Your legs don't really take that much damage anyways, and we've got a healthy amount of armor on them, despite the fact that those plus the head are the only places where we dropped some armor. Everything else is max armor. You can see we did drop roughly, what is that, like 25, well, you get the +7, so yeah, 26, 27, looks like we took 27 armor off each leg, roughly. So yeah, and then the head, we just dropped it down to 28. You do get the +3 there, so really you're at a little over 30, right? 31 out of 36 armor is pretty dang good for the head. I don't really notice headshots getting being taken very often, so I'm not too worried about the armor on the head there. So, that's the build, guys. Another super heavy for us to play with. Really like this build, actually. It's a nice, well-rounded build because you do have Oh, and I didn't really talk about... well, I did mention the Thunderbolts. Just watch out for AMS with these things, obviously, but they do a ton of damage. Stacking 4 of the Thunderbolt 5s, really strong there, I felt like. The Rack 2s, like I said, that's a good high DPS weapon for getting a little bit of damage really quickly onto mechs. So finishing them off, or even from extreme long range, you can soften them up with that if you have line of sight. But the bombast lasers are the primary weapon here. They're going to be doing a lot of your damage for you. I like them. I need to do some more testing with them. I'm just not sure. I'm not sure if they are really my top choice for laser weaponry. But they definitely felt good. They didn't feel weak at all, which is always a good thing. So, let me know what you guys think about the build. If there's anything you would change, what you like about it. I always love to see what you guys comment on these videos for these mech spotlights. I enjoy building them a lot, so hopefully you guys enjoy seeing the builds I put together. I'll let you watch the gameplay now. Until next time, have a good one.
heavy weather warning is in effect, Commander. Your visibility and sensor readings will be compromised out there.